Sandman.
Black-eyed children is an urban legend about strange children with completely black eyes, who attack people late at night and demand help. Some people believe they are disguised evil beings, others believe they are aliens. Externally, these creatures are virtually indistinguishable from normal children or teenagers. The ages can range from about 6 to 16 years old. However, there are cases where black-eyed children, according to eyewitnesses, looked somewhat older. The skin of these children is paler than usual. Often the creatures speak to people in completely unchildlike voices, quite confident, cold and monotonous, which inspires people with increasing anxiety and incredible fear. The main distinguishing feature from ordinary children is their completely coal-black eyes. It is commonly believed that black-eyed children are a typical modern scary story, like Slender Man. However, there are reports of black-eyed children being seen as far back as the 90s and 80s. And there are also several cases from the 1930s that are similar to those of black-eyed children. The first official human encounter with a black-eyed child allegedly dates back to 1982. Back then, a certain teenage girl and her peers were hanging out near Cannock Chase Forest. At dusk, the girl heard loud children screaming. Running toward them, she reached the dirt road, on which she noticed a receding silhouette. As she caught up with it, it became clear that it was a little girl about 6 years old. When the girl turned around and looked at the eyewitness with her black eyes, the other was visited by a terrible nightmare. The girl immediately turned away and ran away into the woods. The police investigation of the strange case was inconclusive. The most striking case of human contact with black-eyed children is that of Texas reporter Brian Bethel, working for the Abilene Reporter News. It happened to him in 1998. According to Bethel, he parked his car in front of a movie theater late one night. Distracted for a while, someone knocked on the car. Bethel saw kids about 12 or 13 years old outside the window. Only one spoke to him, the other was silent. Apparently the kids had forgotten their movie ticket money at home, and they asked Bethel to give them a ride home. Suddenly the man realized that the movie the kids supposedly wanted to go to had long started and was about to end. Brian suspected something was wrong. After a few moments, he realized what was wrong. He looked directly into the children's eyes. They were completely black. Terrified, the man pressed down on the gas pedal, but after a short drive, he slowed down. He looked back and the kids were gone. That same year, Brian Bethel began to receive reports from people in various cities in America of similar creepy encounters with strange black-eyed children. Brian published a whole list of such identical stories. Another case of black-eyed children also dates back to 1998. It was narrated by a man named John Northwood. He was returning from a staff meeting in the evening and was walking to his car in the multi-level parking lot when a man named Doug, also present at the meeting, came up to him and asked permission to get into John's car. But he asked not for a ride home, but for a few laps around the block. When John asked what caused this strange desire, Doug fearfully replied that there was a group of strange children standing around his own car and he was afraid to approach her because of it and wanted to wait until they left. He hoped the kids would go away while he circled around the block in his car with John. Despite the strange explanation, John let Doug get in his car, and as they walked to John's car, they passed Doug's car and John actually saw 3 teenagers dressed in black, gothic-looking hoodies near his car. At this, John felt a sense of utterly irrational fear and suffocating panic. It was the same state Doug was in. As Doug and John approached John's car, one silhouette separated from the group of children standing by Doug's car and approached the men. It was a girl, who looked about 10 years old. She said, in a completely innocent voice, "We're scared to be alone, we just want to go home." John looked at the girl at this point and saw her eyes, completely black, with no whites. This shocking sight seemed to bring him out of his trance. He and Doug quickly got into the car and drove off, with the children rushing to run after their car. John and Doug drove out of the garage to the bottom floor, where there was an exit, and there they saw one of the children, who, in an unbelievable way, outran them. They drove past the boy at the fastest speed possible and out of the garage. After driving a little further, John dropped Doug off and he ran across the road. That's when he was hit to death by a big truck. When John looked back toward the garage in shock, he saw 3 children in black standing there. Who could they be? There are several theories from Western researchers as to who black-eyed children might actually be. For example, David Weatherly, who released The Black-Eyed Children in 2012, believes that black-eyed children may be the offspring of the mysterious men in black. These phenomena have a lot in common with each other, including their style of dress, manner of behavior, conversation, dead pallor and smoothness of skin, similar threats, and so on. In turn, both phenomena, Weatherly attributes to UFOs and aliens. There are theories linking black-eyed children to vampires, because of their deadly pale skin and their appearance only at night or late at night. There is also an unusual theory that links black-eyed children to the phenomenon of the so-called the changeling, widely known in medieval Europe. It was believed that evil forces, fairies, goblins, trolls, could steal human children and leave them in the place of evil children. They looked like ordinary children, but they were ugly, physically handicapped, usually sick and soon died. The evil spirit would take a kidnapped human child to itself and turn it into something similar to itself.